All right. Well, good afternoon, Lydia.
Hi, Sarah. How are
Doing great. Doing great. Happy second to last day of the year.
you? 2 days left in the year.
2 days. And that is a very important aspect of what we're going to be talking about today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this whole last half of the year, you and I have been talking about forbearances, how they affect people, what's going on in the market. So why don't you go ahead and start?
So I want to start. I've got a couple. We've got 6 items that we're going to discuss today. So the first one really is so when the CARES Act passed in March, it created their forbearance plans, and it was expected that about 40 million borrowers would enter one of the available plans. But in reality, since March, about 4.3 million have entered the plan, which is great that it was 10% of what they thought it would be. Now, as we end out the year, about 5.5% of loans, or 2.7 million borrowers, remain in a forbearance plan, and nearly 79% of those in the forbearance plan are on an extension. So initial plans are 3 to 6 months long, and then the extensions are 3 to 6 months long. So people can be in forbearance for up to 12 months. And based on these timelines, we know a huge number are going to be expiring in January. So we're going to be watching very closely, as they say 367,000 forbearance plans will be expiring in January. How many will go into extension remains to be seen, but we're going to be watching these numbers very closely.
Absolutely.
And about 45% of the borrowers who are leaving forbearance are caught up and current on their payments. And so if you look at it, maybe, 55%, and if we're at, 2.7, we're looking, say, maybe 1.4 million, borrowers are going to be within that plan of not being current, so what does that mean? Again, we just have to look.
Right.
But the biggest news, so my second topic was the biggest news in forbearance was that FHA, so for borrowers with an FHA loan, only FHA loans, their forbearance, their initial time to enter forbearance has been extended. So now if there's a struggling borrower who has an FHA loan, they can get started on a forbearance plan anytime through February 28th. So they got an additional 2 months. For every other mortgage type, deadline is tomorrow. That's it. That's all you got, to get started. So make sure you call your servicer today or tomorrow to get started if that needs to happen. We don't know. So in the second stimulus, there was no reference on forbearance timelines. So this was FHA did it on their own. Now maybe some others will. We just don't know.
Right.
The third thing I wanted to talk about was delinquencies. And you remember, any borrower who is late on their payments, if whether or not they're in forbearance, they're required as, or they're counted as a delinquency. So mortgage delinquencies decreased in November. Our latest data is through November. So dropping it from 6.33% of borrowers or loans are delinquent to 6.33%. So it is down. We peaked in May at about 7.8% that were delinquent. So the improvement is good. The national delinquency rate for borrowers who are 30 to 60 days late is back down to pre-pandemic levels. So that's very good news. However, the seriously delinquent or 90 days or more delinquent borrowers, that is still elevated. We are 1.8 million over pre-pandemic numbers. So that means that's going to be a much bigger pool that we need to look at, is what does that mean for those borrowers?
Right.
The fourth thing I wanted to talk about was just, as we're looking at it, and Lydia and I talk about this a lot, is, kind of, as we're, we are definitely concerned. This is a challenge for a lot of struggling borrowers, but we also need to continue to talk about the strength of the housing market. Demand continues. Mortgage applications through the week ending of December 18th, mortgage applications are up 26% year over year, which for this late in December, that's pretty significant. Prices have actually been increasing since 2012 nationwide. We definitely know that here in Arizona, because remember what they were before that. And then also, last thing that is pretty big deal is, You know, the average American homeowner with a mortgage has $195,000 in equity. So that really gives them a whole lot more options.
Yep.
You know, 2020 was the lead, you know, real estate was the leading economic sector in their entire economy. Housing drove everything in 2020. Housing was that shining star. And so a lot of experts are predicting more of the same in 2021. Rates are expected to stay low, demand high. Many expect to see a strong spring selling season as long as we do get some increases in inventory, because those buyers need some houses to buy.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and Lydia and I were also just talking about how few houses are on the market. And for single family, we were, you just told me, for
It's
single
crazy.
family residences available in Maricopa County and Pinal County, as of like 5 minutes ago, 3,000 and just about 3,900. That's not
Yeah.
a lot of options.
Crazy.
And
Crazy.
yeah. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of expectations of what's going to happen next year. And I know, Lydia, you had some really interesting conversations about that. So,
Yep.
what are you seeing with the servicer and everything that
Yep.
you do?
So what I'm seeing on my end with the servicing company is, in the last 3 days, since Monday, I've gotten 10 inspections. And these are the inspections that I've been doing since they started around end of July, beginning of August. And working for a servicing company, the servicing company is the one that services your mortgage. So when someone is delinquent, they are also the ones that manage the foreclosure process. So, so it's been kind of fluctuating. They've been getting more and more as time has gone on, and then they slow down for a little bit, and then they're back up again. And that's probably the slowdown was when they extended the CARES Act with, not foreclosing on people. But last week and this week are both short weeks for the servicing company because they are off on Thursday and on Friday. So really it's a 3-day work week for us. And I have actually both yesterday or last week and this week, I have gotten 10 inspections in 3 days, which is kind of a lot, I think.
You haven't had 2 weeks of 10 inspections back to back, let alone shortened ones, right?
Right, exactly. So these are the inspections I drive by. They just want to know, are they occupied? Does the property look like it's being maintained? They want to know what the condition of the roof, the foundation, does it look like it's been abandoned, things like that. So I have a whole checklist of things that I do. Well, the funny thing is when I stick it into my system after I've done the report and I throw it in there, they usually get checked and reviewed pretty quick. And so they're very quick as far as that's concerned. What I have noticed this last week is they were staying on my computer in the review stage for like days. And I finally talked to my asset manager and I said, do I need to go back in and do something with those? Because it was just odd that they were staying there for so long. An extra day was no big deal, but 2 and 3 days was kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
So he said, no, don't worry about it. He said, we've hired a lot of new people and we're doing a major training right now, which means, in my opinion, I think that they are pre-planning for more foreclosures to be coming through. So because I think they feel that they're going to start getting busier now that, tomorrow is the last day for forbearance. So for those people that aren't keeping up, or maybe they feel that people are going to, miss their payments. I mean, that's obvious that, but the other thing too is, so, one thing that I wanted to talk about was there was a call on Dave Ramsey about a week ago, and it was about a woman who had done a forbearance and she was having some strugglings with some issues on her house. Well, what had happened was she ended up buying or doing her and her husband did not lose their job to COVID, and they did a forbearance. And the forbearance really is for people who went through a job loss or income loss of some kind, maybe didn't lose complete money, but lost some money. And this lady, her and her husband did not lose their job. They took the forbearance, saved up all that money, and went on a trip. So now, and now they don't have the money. So now she's questioning, well, how do I get out of this forbearance? He was livid. He said, this is the problem in America. People don't know what she didn't even know what her terms were. He said, what are your terms? And she didn't even know. So
She
my
didn't even
point,
know. Did she even know that she had to pay it back?
I'm not sure, but that's a good point, Sarah. Just because you took a forbearance doesn't mean it's free money.
It's not free money.
It is owed back at some point. And that is what you and I've been talking about for months now is, do you have a plan in place? How are you going to make that payment back? Are you going to keep it a permanent loan modification? Because the forbearances that we saw this year were short-term loan modifications.
Yes.
There is an option to make it a permanent loan modification, but you need to talk to your servicing company to make sure you are on the same page with them and they agree to doing that, because some of them may not. So you have to be your own advocate, and you have to understand, what are you getting into when you go through these forbearances? And this woman on Dave Ramsey did not even know her terms. She didn't know anything about it. She just thought it was free money and they could go on vacation. Well, that is not the case. You have 2 days to contact your servicing company and figure out what you are going to do. We are at time is of the essence. We've been talking about this for weeks now. This is it. It's do or die, people.
It's do or die.
It's do or die. What I will say, just some advice from, I know you and I've talked about this a lot, Sarah, is there's so much equity in homes. You just said yourself, there's all this equity right now. If someone is in a situation where they cannot pay that forbearance back right away, because some of them are due, like all the money's due up front, unless you've made arrangements with your servicing company to make payments, or unless you put it on the back end of your mortgage. But a lot of people got into these things and didn't know to ask for that. So I would suggest, and I know you and I just talked about this, Sarah, is if you have this situation, better to sell now and keep most of that equity, because as the months go on, if they don't extend after the next 2 days for most people other than FHA, if you do not have something in place in the next 2 days and are considering selling, sell now and keep most of your equity, because as time goes on, they are going to start the foreclosure process. And some states are right away. I mean, you need to know like right away, because here we have a longer foreclosure process where you could sell your house pretty quick. But in some states, it's like 30 days and that's it. I mean, you're 30 days late and then you are going to the sheriff's station, sheriff's sale. So people just need to be aware that if you are not going to get a permanent loan modification, or if you are not going to make some sort of arrangements with your servicing company, you need to sell quicker than later, so you can keep most of your equity and save that money, maybe regroup, and then maybe be able to buy again after you've gone through the process, get your credit back together, because a forbearance does affect your credit. That is the other thing people don't realize. So yeah. So
That's a good point. Thank you for adding
yeah,
that.
yeah. So in states like ours, where we have a little bit more time, we would need to double check with this, but you need 3 consecutive payments to be able to do a refi, but you cannot be in a pre-foreclosure to do a refi. So
That's, yeah.
you have to be careful with that. People don't understand that. So call Sarah, call myself, give us your scenario, and we will at least get you going in the right direction. Whether that's,
Yeah.
Get a permanent loan modification, maybe just sell and be done with it and start over again in 6 months to a year, or maybe there's another option that we haven't talked about. So
And I'm sure those will emerge in the coming days.
yes, yes. So just be aware, be your own advocate, understand what you're getting yourself into or not getting yourself into. That's probably the biggest thing. And I know that this is going to evolve again in 2021. Forbearances haven't stopped. Obviously, they've extended the FHA. So you and I will be back next week to talk
Yes, we
about
will.
what's new in the next coming weeks, because there is going to be a lot to talk about.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
So
thanks. Thanks, Lydia. This is just, we were talking about like there's a lot happening in this shortened holiday week. So,
yes,
Happy New Year. Have a
Happy
great
New Year.
holiday. And we're going to be talking again next week.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks, Sarah. Have a good week.
Thanks. Bye, Lydia.
Bye-bye.